So, hi, Gotiki here, and welcome back. How y'all doing? It's been a year since I last posted, and it's kind of bad. Introductions aside, this video is about a project that I started 1 year ago. I think I uploaded the video where I started the project in May of last year, and since then my life has been kind of crazy, but I can talk about that a little bit later. So what the hell that I'm doing, I'm making a side table for our living room from the remains of a stool that we had and that my brother broke when he sat on it. Hi, Big.
Miss Big, buckling, metal chairs crushing.
He's not even here to defend himself, and he's not even gonna listen to this. But actually, he was a pretty old stew, and he did not hurt himself, okay? And it was a surprise that it was holding up for that long of a time. It was actually part of the set, and we have another one that is still existing and is still fighting. This is impressive. Like, we had these tools since I was a kid, and I am like 32. In the end, not a surprise that it broke. Like, it was pretty old and pretty run down. Anyways, so I decided to use the top part of the stool to make something. First, I was thinking about making a painting. I'm actually not a 100% a painting. I wanted something that was like decoration but kind of also useful. So I was thinking about doing a key holder or maybe a jewelry holder, but I couldn't sketch anything. Then I had the idea to reuse a mirror that was broken, but I managed to fix it, so also that idea kind of flew out of the window. And then I decided to make a side table because I noticed that we don't have any side tables in our living room because my parents apparently don't believe in side tables. And you're probably thinking, where do you put your cups when you all sitting in the living room? On the floor, or you can hold them. So yeah, just an accident waiting to happen. So with all that being said, what have I done to this project? The first thing that I made was a sketch. So I made a sketch to decide the format, the things that I wanted to do, the pattern. I wanted to use a checkboard pattern because the same way that is kind of simple, I think is very whimsical. And I also wanted to kind of put on paper the color palette, or at least a sketch of the color palette that I had in my mind. These were my aesthetic references, these images over here. The one that really inspired me was the blue tiles with the golden stars, and kind of fits the vibe of the living room. I mean, the living room doesn't have a vibe. It just have like a very prominent color palette. We have a baby blue, like very pastel wall. The rest is kind of white, and we have the wooden floors that is this really dark wood. So I thought that it would be really fitting. That's why the color palette. I think the thing that came first for me was the color palette and how I wanted the things to look, and the checkboard pattern. I showed the sketch from my parents and they liked, because it's also their living room, so I'm not just gonna make something and popping there. And this sketch also helped them visualize what I was thinking, and it was a good call. Start with a sketch. I think this project needed that, especially after changing so much of ideas. Next, I sanded the top of the table so I could remove any kind of finish that it had. Do I have footage of that? No. The reason is my notebook kind of had a problem, and that's why I have to stop uploading videos for so long because I had to make a new computer. Can talk about this later, but probably I lost the footage. So you have to believe me, I did send the thing before I start painting. And then I could stain the seed, which was just so I could match like the tone of the living room floors, which is this kind of dark brown basically, and the seed was too light and too warm, so I just stained it with I think it's acrylic base stain. I don't know. It's something that I kind of scramble off my mom's old paint, so I cannot give you a reference. It's just a dark brown stain, you know. Oh yeah, and also before staining the project, I did make a test of the color palette. So I did make a blue, I did use the golden painting that I had bought, and I did test the stain too. Now, did I make a swatch reference of that blue? So in the future, I knew what color do I have to mix? No. Did the video was my only reference? Yes. Did I made the same blue? No. And that is about it. That is kind of it. Like I did not give me any grace in here. I did not have myself. So if you had a project that you had specific colors, make yourself a swatch so you can remember what colors you are using for that project. And then I went and made the grid. So now I don't remember things very well because again it has been 1 year since I made and shoot a lot of these scenes. The only thing that I remember is that I made variations of the size of the square, so me and my parents could decide which one was better. I think we went for the 2 by 2 centimeters. Actually, no, I just checked and it was 2.5 centimeters. Sorry for people that do inches. I think that is very close to 1 inch. I can be talking my ass off, but I think it's very close. And that is kind of it. I don't remember anything of how was to make these grids. But to be honest, I was just making straight lines, so how hard that can be? Well, it can be hard. Sometimes it can be hard. So naturally, I did pass the grid to the top of the table. Now, do I have footage of that too? No. Do I remember how it was the processes of doing that? No. Do I remember how I did that? No. I think actually I just kind of found the center of it and went from there. What I can tell you is that after I finished the grid, I did mark the parts that I was going to paint blue just to make things easier for myself. And I think that is all the things that I did before I had to stop the project, which kind of sucks.
And now we present
Okay, jokes aside, I don't know if I already said that, but I came back to the project in December of last year, and the first thing that I had to do was to make the blue paint to paint the squares, which involved mixing this blue and this off-white color that were both very old and very crusty acrylic paints that I tried to resuscitate and created the most gritty paint possible. Funnily enough, the off-white color name is sand, and also the texture feels like mixing and painting with sand. But this was the first batch that I made of the several batches that I made of this color. Lucky enough, this was an easy color to match. At least I can't see any difference, and also I was kind of adjusting the color to match the level of contrast that I wanted and saturation. And also, I did fix the texture problem in the end. I just had to use more water in the white pen. Who knew? I just want to let you know that I recorded that last part at night when I was not trying to make any noise. But anyway, about starting to paint the top of the table. I'm not gonna lie, all my squares are very lopsided. I mean, if you get really close, they are lopsided. I think if you are in a distance, they look like straight squares. Probably there was a easier way of doing that, but I don't have any that I can think of. I don't have a lot to say in here. Like, I'm painting squares. Like, the only tip that I can give you is use a relatively small brush for the square that you're painting. Use a flat edge. You can try contour the edges and fill it in, but I'm gonna say that it kind of worked out for me. Not super, because this is wood and wood has a grain, so it's kind of bound to happen. Another thing is that the opacity of my paint varied a lot. Like I said before, old acrylics, trying to reuse them, sometimes I mess up the water ratio, and to build the opacity that I wanted, I had to go with more than one layer of paint in the square. I would go off the lines anyway. I fix it later with something that I cook up that is close enough to the stain that I used in the top of the table, but even so, like, it's not very perceivable that they are not straight. And yeah, I think it's just that. There's not a lot I can say about painting the squares. It's kind of a mindless work that you do when you listen to anything on the background, which is cool, because you don't have to think a lot, you know? So, while past me paints a bunch of squares, I'm gonna start my long and winded explanation or storytelling of everything that happened in the end of 2025, start of 2026. Because the problems didn't stop just because the year ended, funnily enough. Also, Genius over here just found the right side of the mic, so sorry if my voiceovers are very different from one another. After I uploaded my second to last, I think it was not the last one, but one before that video, which was me reorganizing my room and putting my bed underneath my window, which I had to basically put everything back where it was it, because that didn't work out. But after I uploaded that video, I kind of got sick, so I made this ceviche, this shiitake ceviche, which is a Peruvian dish normally people made with fish, but I got a recipe to make with mushrooms. However, I found out the worst way that you can't eat shiitake raw. Like, the original recipe, it uses another type of shrooms that you don't have a problem eating raw, but shiitake you do. So I remember that I vomited the entire night. It was bad. Like, my parents also got bad, but they didn't got bad as I did, because next day my body was entire covered with rashes, like red rashes, and basically I had to go to the hospital, like to the ER, and I got a corticoid, I think corticoid shot, because my body was just reacting to the thing, and I got sent to make another exam, which was the pain of my existence to actual schedule. If you never did a patch test, basically they put patches on your back and you have to go back multiple times so they can make readings how you're reacting to the substance that they put in on your back, and the whole exam takes like an entire week to I also had to do a blood test to see if I was specific allergic to mushrooms, which I was not. And that took like, I don't know, half a month that I was just like trying to do all these things. And this was like, I think like the end of May going to June, I think.
June?
So in the start of June, I think it was the start of June, my notebook started to have problems, warning to a very, very loud noise. But yeah, every time that I was turning it up, it was just doing that. And I don't know what it is. And honestly, my notebook is so old. Even if it's turning on, like I was kind of afraid that it was just gonna die on me. So before things got any worse, I had to make a new computer, and it took me, I don't know, like a whole 2 months to sort it out all of the pieces. I got scammed. Someone sent me a processor that was completely open and out of the box. It was from Amazon, so I managed to get my money back and buy another one, but that took a long time. And also to everything be delivered to my house, I had to clean old desktop that we had, which took a lot of time. And then me and my dad had to find out how to put everything together. And after all the thing was, mounted, I still have to configure Windows. I still had to download every single program that I had, and it was ready like in mid of July, I guess, because my last video, like my really last video, was on August, and which I did a little bit of editing just to test out my new computer, but it took a long time to make everything. I had to find out which pieces I could afford, but also which pieces go together. So it was a lot. It took a long time to find out everything, and because I was kind of afraid turning my computer on, or my notebook on, I couldn't record anything because I didn't have anywhere to put all the footage that I had, and I was afraid that my notebook would die and I would lose anything that I had on it.
July?
While I was trying to put my computer together, my young brother, the one that broke the stew, got married, and he got married in July. And one of the first big things that I remember that I have to help was me and my mom went with my sister-in-law, now sister-in-law, to help her choose a dress. I also remember that we helped to make some little gifts for her bridal shower that she had at work. We also help with some of the invitations, and also the special invitations for the bridesmaids and the best mans. And I remember that I had to cut some of them so they look very straight with a cutter and a metal ruler. And they also wanted to put the invitations on those cardboard boxes. It was a very cute box, but I remember that my brother had to order some of them because they couldn't find more. I remember they find it like 3 or 2, and they couldn't find any more. They have to look up where they could buy it in bulk. But it was a very small wedding. Like, they made the party in a restaurant, they only signed the papers, they didn't have like this big wedding. It was very, very small. Also, I did took some pictures, and for some fucking reason decided to edit them and make like this very elaborated editing, and I don't know why I did that. At this point I was probably just procrastinating doing anything because it took me so much time to edit the photos. Like, I don't know, like they had a photographer there. One of their friends is a photographer. That was his present for them. So I don't know. I don't know what I was doing. Yeah, but I think that is what happened in July. Like my PC got like 100% ready, and my brother was married, and I like started to film again, but not so much.
August.
So I cheated a little bit and I started talking about some of the things that I made in August, because I remember that it was the editing of the photos was like July to August. Yeah, I was editing some photos still on August. That's what I meant by it took me a long time, and I don't know why. But anyways, let's forget about that. So, I also made a short on August just to test it out how video editing would be with my new PC, because I had so much trouble color correcting or color correcting, color editing anything in my notebook, and it was really good. It was very smooth, but the important thing that happened in August is that in the middle of August to the end of August, my brother started to move out, I guess. I don't remember this correctly. I think it was middle of August, start of September. I don't remember 100%. I'm just making an estimated guess. But he moved out. He and my sister-in-law had plans to move out, so we had to help moving some things. We have to help finding things that my brother left here, and they needed a little bit of help to choose some pieces of furniture. But mostly, most in my end was packing things up so my dad could help him take the things to his new home. And I just remember that by the end of the month, I kind of started to come back to the old configuration of my room. I had changed it, but it didn't work out, and I started to move some of my stuff to my brother's bedroom. I decided to use a space of his old wardrobe to put some stuff that I was storing in my room. It was a space that nobody was gonna use, not even himself, and I even put it like one of my pieces of furniture there, and decided to change my workspace to this foldable table that my dad have. However, that didn't work out, and recently, and by recently I mean the time that I'm recording this voiceover, I had to bring back my old desk because the foldable table was too wobbly. I hope you can see that in later footages of this video. So yeah, that didn't work out, and you win some, you lose some, and I'm just losing, I guess. But yeah, I don't think I did other things in August.
September.
Now here is when things start getting off the rails. My dog got really sick. He had a tumor in his, well, that's no other way to say this. He had a tumor in his butthole, and it was really bad because he couldn't go to the bathroom. We had to take him to the vet to take out, so he had to do exams. He had to do image exams, and yeah, the process was not fun. Like, it was me and my mom taking care of him in the living room because he couldn't stay outside with his brother. Normally they stay outside in a outside room. They don't stay in the elements. Let me just clarify this. But we couldn't let him alone with his brother, so we had to take care of him in the living room, and we were taking turns. And I don't want to make the things really sad, but again, I don't know how many people's gonna listen to it until here. Like, he's fine, but the tumor was cancer. It was cancer, and it's got a little bit worse. Like, we just got the news that it is spread, and there's not anything that we can do. Like, anything would be too aggressive. So he and his brother are kind of old dogs. Like, they are 14, and they are really big cockers. Normally, if you ever seen a cocker spaniel, they are not a big dog. So the fact that they are big for a cocker, I don't think helps with their health. Besides all that, right now they are fine. They are eating, they are playing, they are okay, not looking like they having any type of pain. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on this more than I need to. But basically, the whole month of September just flew by, and I couldn't do anything because I couldn't, stop to do anything.
October, November.
And in the middle of that, I needed to change my healthcare provider because my healthcare at the time was managed by a third-party company. I guess that is the easiest way to explain that. And basically they were charging too much. They were charging an absurd amount of money for the type of healthcare, and it took me ages to change for this third party company to the actual company of my healthcare. I literally, not joking, changed to the same healthcare plan, just paying half the price less. It was crazy. I think it took a little bit of September and the entire month of October. It was so annoying to fix because I keep comparing prices. Yeah, that took a long time. I completely blocked that out of my head, and I think that in the middle of that, I was still messing around with the configuration of my room and what to keep on it and what to put in my brother's room. But to be quite honest, I don't remember a lot from November. I completely block it out. I think I was fixing some problems that I was having with my computer. So yeah, I completely kind of block out on my mind what happened in October and November
December
to December of last year. And as I said before, I came back to record in December of last year. So, but I still had a little bit of problems. Apparently, I was pissing a lot.
I'm pissing on you. Ooh, I'm pissing on you. Ooh, yeah.
And it was nothing. I went to the doctor and it was nothing. I just don't drink enough water. But I was fine, but that took a while, especially because of the healthcare plan ordeal. And it was December, so we had Christmas, New Year, we have, families, dinners, have to get the house clean, get things ready for everything. So that was happening too. And here's when things start to get really crazy. So remember when I said that my brother moved out? Yeah. So things didn't work out where they were living, and I don't want to get into too much detail because it's not my life, but they had to move ASAP. Like, they had until January of next year to move out. It was kind of crazy. So they started to look for a new house, and we were kind of helping them to find a new one, to find a new apartment. And they did find a place, but they had to take a loan from a bank to actually be able to, buy the place, buy the apartment. I cannot talk about a lot of the process because I understand it in here, but I don't know if I can explain it in English, especially because by the things that I know, taking a loan here in Brazil is a more forgiving process than it is in other places. Also, I think that would just be very boring. But yeah, they had to leave really fast, but they did not manage to get a place before the date that they had to leave the old place that they were living. I can talk about that a little bit later, but that also had a little bit of impact in me coming back really late to filming and recording and editing things. But other than that, I don't remember anything else that is very important that happened in the end of the year. Besides the usual, like I said, family reunion, Christmas, New Year, the usual stuff that happens in December. But I don't remember anything that is worth it to talk about it. But that was how the end of 2025 happened for me. Like, it has been a long time, so there are things that probably I don't remember very well or completely block out of my memory. But that was the big picture and why it kept me out of making videos. But yeah, that is how the end of 2025 went. So, as I was coming back to the project, the first thing that I had to do was to take care of the sides. I made some tests, and the one that we all decided to go was this here. However, you can see in this footage me discovering like in real time that the idea that I had, you wouldn't fit in the side of the table because it was smaller than I had anticipated. I had to basically trash out the idea that I had and also trash out, I don't know, hours of a speed paint where I was doing the tests. And that also gave me carpal tunnel and contributed a lot to me being late with the project. So I just listened to myself and I'm very sick. I'm really sorry. I got sick while recording this voiceover. So sometimes I might sound a little bit stuffy. Sorry about that. Anyways, what I decided to do was go with stripes to make the side of the tabletop resemble a decorative ribbon. You know, those decorative ribbons that have stripes in them. That's what I went for because it was simple, it would fit, and it would accentuate the overall aesthetic without calling too much attention to itself, which is another reason why I decided that my previous idea didn't work out, because I think you would call a lot of attention to the size of the table, and with the checkerboard pattern and the little stars in the top, I think something more simple and delicate to the sides works better. With all that said, I'm not gonna get into much detail how I made the stripes because I very stupidly forgot that you can make stripes using tape. You know when artists use tape to get a straight line? The thing is, I forgot about that. I remember that I could do it and then I forgot about that. So I'm very mad at myself because it was so fucking stupid, and also it took way too much time to do it. Because I have to basically paint it by hand in a round surface, make a continuous straight line in a round surface. That was very dumb of myself. I'm very mad, by the way. But other than that, there's not a lot I can say about it because it's a very straightforward process. The only thing is that I took measurements to make sure the stripes had the spacing that I wanted them to have, so I could do some adornment with the gold paint. And then I use a very thin brush, the thinnest that I could find, to make the thin stripes, and a larger brush to fill in the larger stripe. Kind of obvious. I tried to find one that was the width of the stripe in the middle, but when I started I was kind of, let's say my grip was not very constant, so it's kind of getting wobbly, so I tried to fill it in a little bit more carefully. Oh yeah, and this was definitely like the 5th batch of blue paint that I made. At this time I was already matching almost perfectly the paint, to be honest, because I had to made it so many times. And yeah, I think that is it for the sides of the tabletop. And I forgot to say it, but I also try to fix up a little bit of my mistakes, both in the checkboard pattern and on the stripes, by using a little bit of the brown color to fix a little bit. It wasn't an exact match because at this point I run out of the wood stain, but I think I did a pretty good job matching the color and was able to patch a little bit of my mistakes, which was kind of foolish because when I had to make the gold details I had to redo some of that, but it's okay. So, for the stars, they did not start it as stars. My original plan was to make like little dots in the edges of each square. So, using my 4 brain cells that I still got, I decided to start in the back of the tabletop because I needed to get like a feel for how things would look, and that's when I kind of realized that the dots would be very small in the whole thing and they kind of would get lost in the pattern, and that's when I moved for the stars. And I tested a lot of things to make the stars, like I test my thinnest brushes, I test one fountain pen, I land in a needle, like an embroidering needle, and yeah, it was kind of that, and it was just a question of getting the process right. But even there, it took a lot of time. I mean, I was making stars with a sewing needle. It would take a lot of time. That being said, though, it was worth it because I think the stars bring the whimsicality and kind of medievalness of this project up front. Up front? I think that is the word. Yeah, I think it brings like this kind of fantasy element without being so heavy like I have planned before with the stars in the side of the tabletop. But other than that, there's not lots to say about the whole process of making these stars. Like, I was just making 6-point stars. I think there are 6. I don't remember. Wait a second. It was just little 8-point stars that would appear in the corners where the squares meet each other. Particularly, don't think there is a lot to it. I just like how it looks cute, and I like how it's still like fantastical and elegant and really delicate. Delicate.
Wait, but is it fashion?
Delicate, and I just like it. I'm very happy with it. And finally I could move on and make the dots. And to make them I use a deep pen. I call it a fountain pen before, but it's actually a deep pen with a changeable nib. But yeah, there's not a lot I can say about this. It's just dots. I just dotting the ink in there in the space that I let between the stripes. And just like the stars, this took a long time to make. I'm not gonna show you all the process because then I'm gonna bore you more than I already did. But to me personally, it was very relaxing. Kinda, because I'm not gonna lie, at this point I was kind of done with this project, to be honest. And I also did try to create like a small pattern, making some dots bigger and others smaller, but in the end you could barely see it, so I just scrapped the idea and made everything the same size. Also, as I previously mentioned, I did try to come back with a similar color to the stain that I use in the wood just to fix some spots, but I very smartly forgot to film that. I don't know if I forgot or if I couldn't be bothered, but I don't remember filming that. I mean, I could have lost the footage too, but I don't remember. But to be honest, it didn't add that much. I still couldn't like fix all the mistakes. In the end, it's still something that was handmade, so things gonna be crooked sometimes. They're not gonna be perfect. That's alright. It's just a funny detail when you come too close. And with the dots done, it was finally over.
Wait a damn minute.
So you probably asking yourself, wait, wasn't this supposed to be a table? Was I clickbaited? And even though I said in the title of the video that I was making just a tabletop, you're right, the whole project was supposed to be a table. The whole video was supposed to end up with a table. However, I had some problems. So the first thing that put a handle in the whole project is my parents' indecision and kind of disposition, to be honest. I personally feel that I took my decision making in this project to my limit, and I'm very done with trying to decide things by myself. But this is also for their living room, so I feel that they should decide things too. And I didn't want to look for feet for the table alone. I was looking online and I wasn't finding anything that I enjoy, and neither my parents were liking the things that we were finding together, so we wanted to buy the feet in store. However, our only car got in an accident. Someone hit our car, and that led us without a car for like 2 weeks or something. So 2 weeks of April we didn't have a car. We couldn't go anywhere to look for things, and buying online was also not a fun experience. But I also said this project took a year to be finished, and I didn't talk about beginning or more than the beginning. I think we are just in the second semester of 2026, but this video is already way too long, and even though I could bore you and myself by yapping of how the year has gone so far and how I found ways to procrastinate this project, I won't. I can make some remarks that are very important. The first one being that my brother and my sister-in-law had to move out before the paperwork for their new house was approved, as I said before. But because of that, they had to move some of their furniture here to my parents' house. Most notably, I am taking care of their pet lizard. Her name is Brioche, and I have to feed her cockroaches with a very long tweezer, which was not in my bingo card for this year. Also, she gets really pissed when I try to pet her, which I think is a good trade-off by the feeding of the cockroaches, but she doesn't. That aside though, it took like 4 months for the whole paperwork to get approved. And when it got approved, they started to do some renovations. They are minor renovations, but they are taking a little bit of time. And since they are moving very close of us, my parents have been helping them with finding people to help in the renovations and buying materials. So that is also taking a lot of time of them. Coincidentally, all of that happened when the car broke, so it has not been easy, to be honest. On a personal level, I have been having some dental issues. I'm not gonna go in too much detail because it's just boring stuff, but I had to put some braces on, and the whole process is taking way more time than I expected personally, especially because I have to make many visits, so that took off my time as well. With updates ended, I wanna say thank you if you watched it until here. To all 184 of you that are still subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. Sorry that I didn't post anything for so long. I'm gonna say that I want to try to post every once a month. Don't know if I'm gonna be able to, but I'm trying to come back to this very slowly. Again, thank you so much if you watched it until here, and I see you in the next one. Bye!